So a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Chicago. My dad was an alcoholic. Alcoholism ran in my family. It took me a long time to realize that I had a problem. I grew up Catholic, mandated to go to church every Sunday with my family, not by choice. As I got older, my relationship with God kind of dissipated, and my relationship with alcohol became a little bit more active than my relationship with God. Since getting sober, those relationships have flip-flopped. My relationship with God, whom I believe in God, my relationship with Him has gotten a lot better. And since then, through this program, my relationship with God and this group of people here, my sobriety is getting easier and easier. It's coming up on a year, but man, it feels like it's been a long time. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So tonight we're talking about establishing a relationship with God. And anything that I say in here, this is my experience. It may sound like I'm preaching, but I'm not. This is everything that kind of I did and went through since I've gotten sober, and how I worked my relationship with God. So establishing a relationship with God, it touches the heart of many. Establishing a relationship with God in our fast-paced, chaotic world, finding a connection to something greater than ourselves can bring comfort, strength, and clarity. Tonight I want to share thoughts on understanding God as we perceive Him, the essential steps to establish a deeper relationship, and the importance of seeking support on this journey. The understanding of God as we perceive Him. Let's consider the importance of personalizing our understanding of God. Each of us carries unique experiences, beliefs, perceptions that shape how we view the divine. For some, God may take the form of a traditional figure, a loving and nurturing presence who guides us through life's challenges. For others, God might be represented by beauty of nature, the strength found in community, as in this room, or even a sense of a universal connection. It's vital that we recognize our perception of God, and it's valid and worthy of exploration. This relationship is deeply personal and can evolve over time by allowing ourselves the freedom to define who or what God means to us. You open the door to a more profound sense of purpose and strength. And remember, it's not about conforming to a specific image, but embracing what resonates with your spirit. The steps I took to establishing a relationship with God, big one was prayer and meditation. First and foremost, we have prayer and meditation. Daily prayer is an opportunity to communicate with God. It's a chance to express gratitude, seek guidance, share your innermost thoughts. Think of it as a conversation with a trusted friend. You pour your heart out and listen for a response. The sacred dialogue can ground you, especially during challenging times. Alongside prayer, you have meditation. Meditation allows you to cultivate in stillness. While prayer is about speaking, meditation is about listening. Listening to see what God is saying to you in that moment. And you become more attuned and signs of the messages that will guide us along through this journey. Another thing that I did was study and reflection. Big thing, obviously, I've gotten back into college. That's a big thing, and I was writing a paper this week, and I was like, you know what, it would make sense to make this look like a paper, and that's kind of what I did. So that's why if it comes across that way, I'm sorry. But study and reflection, engaging with spiritual literature, whether it's the big book, the Bible, other spiritual texts, just immersing yourself in these writings can deepen your understanding of the divine and provide wisdom for our everyday lives. I encourage you to take time to reflect on what you read. Personal insights often arise when we connect the text to our own experiences. Sharing these reflections with others can also foster deeper discussion and insights that enrich our spiritual journeys. I've personally found that certain passages have profound impacted my perspective, giving me hope and encouragement during difficult times. The big one, seeking support. It is very critical, for us to seek the support that we need. Establishing that relationship with God. We're not meant to walk this path alone. Participating in fellowship, whether through attending meetings, joining study groups, or simply sharing our experience with friends, can provide a strong foundation for our spiritual growth. Having a sponsor or a mentor can be invaluable. A sponsor, they serve as a guide, offering wisdom, support, the accountability piece. They help you navigate through your spiritual journey. They can help you stay focused on your goals and remind you of the transformative power of faith during difficult moments. I'm going to go into my spiritual experience. So the term of spiritual experience is defined in the Big Book, specifically in Appendix 2. It refers to a profound transformation that occurs when someone becomes aware of a higher power or spiritual presence in their life. Personally defining that, what it means, definition of spiritual experience from the Big Book. The Big Book states that spiritual experiences can take various forms. They may be sudden and dramatic, often referred to as spiritual awakenings, or gradual, involving a deepening understanding of one's relationship with a higher power over time. The key element is that these experiences lead to a significant change in how a person perceives life, themselves, and their connection with others. My personal interpretation. So for me, it was transformation. To me, a spiritual experience signifies a shift in perspective. It's not merely an intellectual understanding, but a heartfelt realization that there is something greater than myself. This realization can bring comfort and strength, especially during challenging times in my recovery. My connection. A spiritual experience often enhanced my sense of connection, not just to God, but other individuals in my meetings, attending meetings, speaking with other people, listening to their stories, and just being part of a community. It reminds me that I'm not alone in my struggles. Guidance and clarity. They provide guidance and clarity in decision making. When I feel aligned with my higher power, I tend to make better choices that are in harmony with the values and my goals of my sobriety. I find myself, when I don't attend these meetings for a week, and I'm just like jonesing, like I need to get out, I need to get back and be part of the community, be part of the group. And every time I come here, I could be in the worst, crappiest mood and the most pain, miserable pain, but when I leave here, I'm like the happiest go lucky Epie ever. And then just remembering that it's an ongoing journey. I see a spiritual experience as part of an ongoing journey rather than a one-time event. Each new insight or connection deepens my relationship with my higher power and strengthens my commitment to sobriety. Going into coming to believe in a higher power. This process is not just a step. It's a significant transformation that many of us experience as we navigate the challenging yet rewarding path of sobriety. The journey of belief, for many of us, the idea of a higher power can feel abstract or even distant, especially when we first walk through the doors of recovery. I know when I first walked through these doors, I felt shame, I felt, dishonor in my family, to my name. But as soon as I walked in, I felt so welcome here. I was embraced with open arms, and I knew right away, like, this is my group. Like, these are my people. The journey starts with a seed of hope, a whisper in our heart that maybe, just maybe, there's something out there that can help us. It might be sparked by the kindness of a stranger at a meeting, the front door, everybody just introducing themselves to me thinking that I had a sponsor because I spoke to the same person every week, but didn't realize that he wasn't my sponsor because I never asked him to be my sponsor. But that's how much I felt like I was connected. That little seed was planted, and it just helped me grow into where I'm at today in my sobriety. The words of a sponsor, my sponsor, very knowledgeable, younger than me, but very, very knowledgeable. You know, just the shared experiences of the stories that we hear around us, the connections we make, the chips that we take away with us. You know, all that allows the space for curiosity for that belief. And then as we progress, it's important to remember that belief is not always instantaneous. It's a process, sometimes gradual, sometimes rocky. There may be days when we feel connected, and others where doubt creeps back in. Those are the days where you find that little bit of hope, that person that spoke to you at the door, that little seed that was implanted, and you just ride with that and go with that and come back to a meeting. Just keep coming back, right? Biggest thing for me was overcoming doubts. It's a common struggle that everybody faces when we're trying to believe in something that you don't see every day. It's natural to have questions and concerns. Like, what if I don't feel anything? I didn't have a spiritual awakening, like it wasn't instantaneous. I didn't wake up and just feel the glory of God all over me, you know. You're not alone in having those thoughts. Many of us have wrestled with similar fears. Doubt can be a proactive mechanism, shielding us from vulnerability. But I encourage you all to embrace openness and honesty throughout this process. Share your thoughts, your hesitations, and your fears with others who understand your struggle, your sponsor, the person sitting to the left or right of you. I promise you they've been through what you've been through, not worse. And there's no judgment. That is the best feeling ever. You know, nobody here is being judged. Remember that belief does not require perfection. It's about willingness, a desire to connect, to explore, and to seek something beyond ourselves. Even acknowledging our doubts can be a step towards belief. Allow yourself the grace to grow slowly, and there's no rush in this progress in this program. So, and then the importance of the faith in my recovery. Believing in a higher power provides me with a foundation of support, especially when the road gets tough. It serves as a reminder that I don't have to bear the burdens by myself. You know, the faith can bolster our resolve during moments of weakness, giving us strength when we feel tempted to return to old habits, which, moreover, beliefs foster a sense of purpose and direction in our lives. When we commit to recovery and put our trust in a higher power, we begin to see ourselves as part of something larger. I know I do. This perspective encourages personal growth for me and helps me cultivate my resilience. I learn to lean into faith rather than fear. I no longer fear like I used to. That the fear from my relationship with God is now the fear that I'm not ever going to make it to His heavenly kingdom. That's the only fear I have, and that's just myself, you know. For many, this belief becomes a wellspring of inspiration, prompting us to give back to others who are struggling. As we experience hope and healing, we want to share it. The cycle of giving and receiving can be incredibly powerful, reinforcing our belief and enhancing our commitment to sobriety. You know, this is a 3 Legacy group. We do a lot of giving back, and that is the one thing that I love about this group and this program. Is we were all given a gift, and it's amazing what this gift has done for me that I have to share it. Like, I can't just keep it to myself. Sharing it with other people just makes me feel that much more better, you know, and keeps me that one day from not drinking or having another drink. I'm going to talk about step 3 of the 12 steps, which invites us to make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. This step is a profound invitation to surrender, and it can both be liberating and challenging. At its core, this step asks us to make a conscious decision to trust in a higher power, to relinquish control over our lives, and to hand our struggles over something greater than ourselves. It encourages us to let go of the burden of trying to manage everything on our own, recognizing that we've tried that approach and it hasn't worked out very well. Surrendering our will doesn't mean giving up or being passive. That was one of my things, being military background. Very stubborn and no, this is how it's going to happen because I said this is how it's going to happen. I'll be back in 20 minutes when you correct it type stuff. But it doesn't mean that you're just giving up your, everything, it's actively choosing to release the tight grip on life and allowing ourselves to be guided by our higher power. It's about acknowledging that we are not alone in this battle and that there is support available to us if we choose to accept it. And once you accept it, I promise you, it's one of the greatest feelings ever. For me, the concept of surrender, for many, the word surrender can carry a negative connotation, often associated with defeat. That military background, that's literally like, there's no way I'm giving up. We don't give up. You know what I mean? I'm not a quitter. Always in my mind. However, in the context of recovery, surrender is an act of strength. It's recognizing that there are forces beyond our control, and rather than fighting against them, we can embrace them. In my own experience, surrendering my will was one of the most challenging yet transformative actions I undertook. I remember vividly the moments of fear and doubt as I contemplating letting go of the need to control every aspect of my life. There were times when I tried to dictate the terms of my recovery, when I'd feel good or how quickly I'd achieve certain milestones. But every time I clung to that illusion of control, I found myself slipping back to wanting another drink or, one won't hurt. Those really bad thoughts of, negative thoughts that I didn't want to slip back into, or my old patterns. When I finally decided to surrender, I felt an incredible weight lifted off my shoulders. I realized that I no longer had to shoulder the burden of my past mistakes or future anxieties. Is somebody going to find out that I drank so much tomorrow and I'm already worried about it and just anxious that I need another drink just to calm me down? That was like the most, driving with my kids sober was like the greatest gift ever. I got pulled over the other day leaving softball practice with my son in the car because I had a taillight out. My son just looks at me and I just smiled at him like, we're golden, dude. Like, we're fine. We did nothing wrong. Like, your dad, and he knows it, like he knows dad's sober. And he just kind of smiled back at me and it was awesome. Like, no worry. I don't know. First thing I didn't even call my wife. It was like, we got this, dude. Me and you. But surrender opened the door to accepting life on life's terms, and allowed me to find peace within the chaos. I could keep going on the steps that I took on surrendering. I'll just kind of go over them. The things that I do now on a daily basis is my daily affirmations. I start my day every day trusting in my higher power. The first words out of my mouth every morning are, thank you, God, for giving me another day on your earth and another day of sobriety. Let it be your will and not mine. That's simple, and my day starts out perfect. If I feel rushed and I catch myself, I do it when I'm brushing my teeth, because I remember. I set daily intentions. Before I go out on my day, I try to set my intentions that align with my desires to surrender. This could be as simple as deciding to approach challenges with an open heart, or committing to listen to your intuitions instead of forcing outcomes. Mindful reflections at the end of the day. I take a moment to reflect, ask myself, did I allow space for my higher power to guide me today? Where did I struggle to surrender? This practice helps to cultivate awareness and allows me to approach the next day with a renewed sense of purpose. And then setting aside personal agendas. Practice letting go of rigid expectations or plans. You know, we're going on a family trip to Disney World. This is going to be awesome. No, it's not. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be hot. There's going to be a lot of people. I'm just going to be miserable, you know? No, letting that stuff go and just letting what happens. When faced with decisions or challenges, I ask myself, what would my higher power want for me in this situation? This shift in perspective can reveal new paths and possibilities that weren't visible before. And with that, I kind of went over how I established my relationship with God, my understanding of God, my study and reflection, seeking support, my spiritual experience, coming to believe, and overcoming my doubts, and surrendering to a higher power. I know that one's definitely not an easy one for everyone. And then I went over my practical my steps that I did for surrendering. And through these steps and through the big book and through this group, following the simple steps that are laid out, I've been able to establish this relationship with my God and my higher being. And through him and this program and this group of people in front of me, I've been able to stay sober for almost 1 year. And that's all I got to say. Thanks for letting me speak.
Oh, I don't care. There you go. Maybe you don't want to go.
No, I don't care. I want you guys to have enough room to get up here with all your.
He's the headline.
He is the headliner. He needs the broke folk
I need to hear more so I can come up with something.
Make us feel worse about ourselves.
No, I need to hear what you guys say so I can come up with something.
I'm Jenny. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jenny.
Great job, Epie. That's awesome. I was stealing some of your ideas. Just kidding. Please. Get your computer. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, I haven't done the panel before, so please bear with me on mine. And again, just like Epie said, this is coming from a personal experience and just what worked for me or what I found throughout my journey through sobriety so far. My sobriety date is April 27th, 2023, so I'm just over a year and a half now. And I'm praying to God, which I didn't do the first time, that I just keep the momentum up and I get another day every day. When I grew up, just like Epie, I grew up in a very Catholic household in California. My parents taught CCD, which, you know what that is. Yeah, I thought I was going to be like the cool high school kids when they had chocolate donuts downstairs. But so it was very the foundation was there, but I just, for whatever reason, looking back now in my life, I was alcoholic as a kid. I just didn't understand it until now. And so I just didn't have the patience to sit in church, sit and kneel, and do everything else that was required. And I just was searching for something, whether it was that next trophy in sports, or the next place I could visit, or the next time I could run away from home, because I did that a lot when I was a kid. My mom helped me pack a bag one time. It was great. So with that, I knew the foundation was there, and I knew of God. I just didn't have a deep, I didn't have a relationship. I was an agnostic. I just didn't know him. And I didn't know of a higher power. And so my whole life I've hit certain milestones or done certain things that I've done myself. I feel like I've spent my whole life just depending on myself, whether it was as a kid with older brothers that I would run away from, or if it was as an adult in the military raising my son by myself. So it was just constantly I can do this by myself. And I wouldn't be boastful about it. I would just get it done. And I thought the same when I realized I was an alcoholic. My prayers during my time of drinking was a lot of foxhole prayers. Like, how am I going to get out of this? Can you help me here? Or help me with this? Or please don't make me move to this location. Or please do this for me. I'll do whatever you want at the tail end. But God never asks what he wants personally, So it was just a lot of that. When and even when I finally got caught, I got a DUI was what really caught me out of, I was about 8 or 10 years in heavy drinking at that point, and I should have been dead through a car accident years and years prior to that, but as I now know, God was there the whole time. So I didn't even say a foxhole prayer when I finally got caught. I think it was more of a relief. I was happy to finally just say, I'm done. And, you know, just the amount of times I've tried to get out of it, and I finally just said, I'm too drunk to even to say the alphabet. Like, this is not going to work anymore. And then it just became a matter of, like, I've just completely, like, I peed in my own pool, and now I got to figure out how to clean it up. So it was just basically onto destruction, like, recovery mode of, like, how am I going to fix my career? How am I going to keep my son's dad from here? And then I got a DUI so he can't take me to court again. Like, just all these things and these worries, and not worried about, like, how am I going to get, like, healthy? How am I going to get sober? It was never about that. It was just about, like, how can I fix the mess I just made, and not about how can I fix me. And so even coming into the meetings, and like Epie said, I came here and I tried a few in Fayetteville and a few in Aberdeen, and I just felt at home here. And I think that was the first step into getting to feeling the grace of God in my life. And I did try to work the steps originally, and I did everything like everything else. I put all of my effort into it completely, but still just was missing a piece. I was missing that piece that was missing my whole childhood, that relationship with God that I'd always been missing. And I must have read We Agnostics, like, this is a newer book, but I read it. I mean, you could tell it was like the only part of the book that was just overused, because I'm like, I just can't believe I can't get into this. And I couldn't make up a concept of, like, well, what is my higher power? And it just seemed out of grasp for me. And I'm like, well, if I just keep reading this again and again, like, the answer has got to be in this book. It's got to be in these rooms. And I had moved to Texas, and I had just let it go. And again, I went on self-will, and I didn't have a program, and I did last, but it wasn't there. Like, I was missing that spiritual connection. I was missing that piece of me since I was a kid. And so then, like any good drunk, you know, the tires are going to fall off the car eventually. If you don't have a program, you don't keep coming back, and you don't have a belief in higher power. The simple steps that we learn in here. And they did, and they came back, and it's like a progressive illness. It just got worse and worse until I just wanted to die. And I think a lot of us in this room have hit that point in our lives of our drinking careers where it's just like, it can't get any worse than this. And at that point, when I was on my bedroom floor and I was just, like, begging to live, that's when God finally showed up. And it's not like he wasn't there. He's been waiting. He was just waiting for me to see him. And to finally say, like, a prayer that was said from the heart, and to realize that I don't have anything unless I have this, like, my relationship with God, then I won't have a life, period. And so I ended up in rehab. And during my time there's one specific incident that happened. And I remember all the counselors were all recovering from drugs or alcohol, which was great. You know, it really helped us a lot there. And all of the ones that I talked to were all in AA, and I would talk to them about AA because that wasn't pushed at the rehab, but we would talk about it. And then I lost, like, insurance on my retirement. You know, typical Army, you retire, and they're like, you don't get insured anymore. Like, that's not how it works. But so I thought I was going to have to go home, and I was really stressed out because I'd only been there for a week, and I thought, you know, we talk about triggers, and I'm like, well, the airport's my trigger. I'm just going to go get trashed on the way home, not because I want to, but because my body's like, you know, they don't even want you to rehab, so might as well. And I just decided, instead of me stressing about it, I reframed my thinking, and I thought, for the first time, like, God, if God doesn't need me here, then that's God's will. That's not my will. And I could fight it and do what I've done my whole career and keep fighting and control it and make something happen, but that's not my life anymore. I've done that, and I've fallen, and I failed again and again. So finally, I'm just like, I'm going to leave it to a higher power, and I'm not going to sit here and let it ruin my day or ruin this, you know, if I only have another class with these counselors, and that's all I have before I have to pack. So I just decided to do that. And the next day I was talking to the therapist there, and she was like, you seem really calm about this. And I'm like, well, because I've given it to my higher power. And for the first time, I knew what that was like, because I remember talking to counselors going, what is this? I understand giving it away to your higher power, but like, I just don't understand that, because I've had control of everything for so long. And that was the first time I said that, and I felt it. And then that day I got on a scholarship to maintain, or to stay there for the next 30 days. And then TRICARE kicked back in, and they paid for it. So everything worked out just in a matter of that one time. And I wanted to stay till 90 days, but there were probably other women that needed that bed way more than I did, because I had this place to come back to. I had this group and this fellowship. So then I came home and I did my steps again with my new sponsor, and it was one of those, like, I always thought, I got to see a lot of the Bill W. videos in rehab, and like I can get very educational about things and overthink things. And I'm like, there's going to be like that bright white moment that he had in the hospital or something that's going to be like, oh, the obsession. Like, I'm relieved from this obsession all of a sudden, and God is here. And it wasn't that quick, but I did the steps, and I did my 5th step, and I said everything that I could. And it's not like I didn't do it before, but it was different this time. And after that, I've gone through PTSD therapy in the military, and I've gone away on like those kind of trips, and I always felt after we did like a really big session of kind of talk therapy, like I would just feel almost taken out of my body in a way. Like you're almost disconnected, and you feel like you're just looking into yourself in a weird way. It's a very weird emotional feeling. And I felt that way this time doing my 5th step. And for about 2 days, like I was quiet, and I was just like dealing with a lot of stuff. And I promise you, from that moment on, it was like that obsession was gone. And I'd never thought, I'm the one that was constantly reading We Agnostics. I'm the one coming in the rooms going, I'm never going to feel that way. Or I'm never going to get it. And I got it. And it was like just such a powerful experience to go through. And to have that and to be able to, like, now I just feel like, oh, you're just saying that to say it. I'm like, no, it really happened to me. Like, I really felt that way. And finishing my steps and doing everything else, and it was like, it's like just that feeling of peace and calm, finally. And not this need to constantly fill up this empty hole that's inside of me and constantly trying to find that anymore. It's here, I found it. So one of the things, I was rereading We Agnostics, and one of the things that I know I've reread like 100 times, but it stood out to me when I was rereading it. It's on page 55. Actually, we were fooling ourselves, for deep down in every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, but by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other it is there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. We finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup, just as much as a feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was as much of a fact as we were. We found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it had only been there that he may be found. It was so with us. We can only clear the ground a bit if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, which has no evidence, the thought without evidence. If our testimony helps sweep away a prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on that broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. And I wrote at one point, like, I will find my higher power as long as I keep searching. And that was like, even in the time where I'm like, if I keep searching, if I keep reading, if I keep doing this, then I'll get it, and I did. And so just quickly, because I don't have to pass it off, things that I do for how I built, that's how I got the relationship and how I maintain and strengthen it, is a lot of what Epie had said, and I'm sure what Justin will say, but prayer. And I'm not constant with it, but I am like aware, and it might not happen every day in the morning when I wake up, because I'm retired and I don't wake up at the same time every day. But throughout the day I do. And when I think of prayer, I think of like, there's prayer and meditation. Prayer is for talking to God. Meditation is for thinking about your higher power. And so with prayer, I just wrote down like, I was asking, asking that he may come, that I may come to know him and have the strength to do as well. So just in anything I do, whether it's talking about, like, one thing I'd stumbled upon before is put an empty chair next to your bed and imagine your higher power sitting there. Share your deepest longings, joys, sorrows, achievements, and shame. And then ask what you can do so that he can live through you in his will. And so if I just do it, maybe it's during my drive to here or something, but it's there, which is not always at the same time. And then meditation, but I think meditation is just always looking and enjoying life, because a lot of time we've spent most of our lives just looking for the next drink. And now we have the opportunity to look in and go, wow, that's a beautiful sunset today. And God made that sunset for us to see. Journaling, I just started that, and that one's a tough one for me. In service, which I love service, and if you talk to me, I know there's a few of us, but I'm like, service really saved my life here. And that just being active, and I know I'm that person, so being active, it's constantly in my face, and then sharing what I've learned with others and helping that, and I think that's God working through me. And that's it, but being transparent and speaking openly to God when you do. And I talk to him like he's a friend of mine. And whether that's not the way, I don't have a set prayer, and I always think because I'm Catholic, like everything is regimented, and you will say this prayer before you start this prayer, but I'm just talking to him like he's there, because he was there every time when I wasn't talking to him, so now I know he's there, and so it's a lot better conversation. That's what I got. Thanks for letting me share.
My co-panel members are like an orthopedic's dream here. So the original starter got put on the IR. I got called up from like AA, I think, right, for you guys, so I apologize. But Freddie is sick with pneumonia, so keep him in our prayers. Hopefully he's feeling better. I know he's at home watching a baseball game, so he can't be that bad. My name's Justin Pace. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 24th, 2022. That is now my first sobriety date. And this was a hard topic. Like, I started digging into this and doing some readings, and like you could see, like I just kept going down. Like it kept going and going and going, and right, I could probably sit up here for an hour and just read all these little tabs that I have here about, establishing a relationship with God. And I was trying to, I think the older I get and the longer I've been around here, I try not to have an original thought when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? There's directions. It's clear cut in the book, and I try to keep it that simple. But I think what you're going to hear from me is so my first sobriety date is 2004. And I'm sober for almost 10 years, right around a little bit over 9. And so what you're going to hear is kind of two times how I've been able to establish a relationship with God, and then what happens, and it talks about in the book, right, when you don't continue to enlarge your spiritual life, right, and you start living an unprincipled life, right, you sever your relationship with God, and you have nothing else to do but take a drink, right, and that's what happened to me. But And I think, right, both times, right, so I've been back here now 2 years, right, I stayed out for 10 years, and I think both times that I've been sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, right, the way I established a relationship with God was the same, right, I've been thinking about it, and I'm going to try not to, I don't think I'm going to read a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's a lot. I'll try to pick out some stuff. These are the only readers I've been able to hold on to, man. They magnet together, so I haven't lost these. I've had them for like 2 weeks. These things. It's a long time. Great. So when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous in 2004, I was beat down, right? I was like driven. I don't know if Epie talked about surrendering. Like, I didn't surrender. My position was overrun. I was driven into a fetal position, right, in my life. But I had no choice but to look up. I mean, I was raised Irish Catholic. I don't know. I believed in God, but I don't know. What I didn't know was that the way church went in our house and God, like, I was never told I could have a relationship with God. I didn't know it. I just, a few Hail Marys, a couple Our Fathers, purgatory for 1,000 years, and you're good. The Catholics took away purgatory, didn't they? They don't even have purgatory anymore. But that was my understanding of God, right? And I was raised like, if if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? Like I hadn't ever met anything by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous in 2004, like I had never met anything in my life that I couldn't overcome, right? I you know what I mean? Or at least I didn't think I could, right? You know, I mean, I'd run into a few bouncers every now and then that I couldn't overcome, you know, but like, you know, my dad always told me, right, like, you know, everybody needs a good ass whooping every now and then. So I thought, you know, like, that's good for you. But when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, like, I literally was in a fetal position, man. I had burned down my entire life, any relationship I had, and I had no choice but to look up. Right? And, like, at that moment in my life, and how I established a relationship with God is through the first 9 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Right? When I got here, right, it was evident in my life that I was powerless over alcohol, right? And that I had conceded to my innermost self, like it talks about in the book, that, right, I could not drink again, right? And at that point, like, I had no other choice but to kind of move on with the steps, right, and answer the questions in the book about step 2, like, am I willing to believe, you know, can I believe, and like, that's really what happened for me. Like the powerlessness, I understood the disease of alcoholism. I was taught it. I got a sponsor. I got a home group, right? I got in the middle, and I worked the steps, right? And through the first 3 steps, right? Like I understood that I couldn't do it myself, right? That there was no human power, right? I don't know if it talks about in the book about like marshaled by our own will, right? We can't do it. That was apparent to me. Right, and then I knew I could come to believe, like it was a process, like I was told, and I had good sponsorship, and I was told, like, you don't need to figure out your higher power or your relationship with God, like, you just need to be willing to, and it's going to come over time. And, right, then I did step 3, right, and I turned my will and my life over, right, which at that point was my thoughts and my actions. And then I launched on a course of vigorous action, and I think really where this kind of, you know, I had no idea, like, when I finished step 3, I was ready to go, like, all I knew was, like, man, I was afraid to do the 4th step, but it said in the book to just go, and, right, and I asked God to help me and help me with that fear and just keep going. And, like, I think that was probably the first point where I had some inkling of, like, you know, there's a God out there, because, I mean, I looked at the 4th step, I said, there's no way that I would ever be able to write all this stuff down and be willing to admit it. Right, if there wasn't a God, because I wasn't going to do it myself. And then I think for me, man, that was the turning point, right? Like, because when I got here, man, like I was a liar, I was a cheat, right? And at that point in my life, I was willing to be as honest as I could and write as much down, right? Take out personal inventory, right? And look at my stuff. And what I had realized at that point is, like, there's establishing this relationship with God, right? They call it that sunlight of the spirit, or this channel to God. And I had blocked it my entire life, right? With the way I treated people, the way I lived, right? Alcoholism, all the things that I did, all the relationships I destroyed. And, right, I was unable to have that relationship with God. Like, it was impossible. You know, like I couldn't even look you in the eye when I got here. And what happened by working 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like, right, I was able to clear away that wreckage of the past, right, and open up that channel so that I could receive that sunlight. And it talks about in that book, right? We made a list of people we had hurt or turned to. I felt resentment. I expressed my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrong. Never was I critical of them. I was to write all such matters to the utmost of my ability. I was to test my thinking by my new God consciousness within. Right, and like that's what freed me, I think, right? That's when I felt that connection for the first time through the steps. Right, and then I continued to clean that stuff up, right? And then I lived in 10, 11, and 12, right? So it's really like the first 9 steps, man, is what established my relationship with God. It was an educational variety, and that was the first time. And then what happened to me was, and I got a couple more minutes, and I'll wrap this up because the second relationship with God is only 2 years, so it doesn't take that long. What happened, and it talks about it in the book, right, that if we fail to maintain our spiritual condition, right, that we're going to drink again. And what happened was, right, with 7 years sober, maybe, like I started having one foot out the door. I started having these thoughts, right? I wasn't current with my sponsor. I wasn't working with my sponsees. Right, a lot of them were sober, like they'd work the steps, you're good, right, call me if you need anything. and I started living an unprincipled life, right? That total psychic change that I had, the way I looked at the world, right? It all became, right, the steps that helped me destroy self, right? And then it all started becoming about Justin again, right? I started being dishonest with the people in my life, right? I started having these thoughts, well, man, I mean, you know, like I like drugs. Like maybe if I just drink and not do drugs, I'll be good. And, right, what happened was like living an unprincipled life and not being willing to correct that, I severed that relationship with God, and it was just a matter of time before I drank again. I mean, I held on as long as I could, but I remember the day that, like, self-knowledge, man, all this stuff I had learned, like, didn't even cross my mind when I had this idea that it would be a good idea to take a drink. Gone. 10 years later, and now we're back to, you know, what is the date today? Is it 30th? Right, so September 24th, 2022. Right, same process, right? Like I was beat down, 10 years of trying not to come back to AA. Wanting to be one of those guys that talks about in the book that you took your hat off to, right? That could do it. And I tried hard, man. I tried. Like, you know, and at the expense of everyone else in my life, right? My wife, my kids, right? Any meaningful relationship I had, you know? And I was in a fetal position with no choice but to look up, right? Like at the gates of hell. Something had to give. Alcohol or drugs was a solution for me, and it stopped being a solution again. And when I got here, right, like I don't know, I conceded to my innermost self again, and worked the steps again, and now again have established a relationship with God that I continue to try to improve on a daily basis, right? And it's simple for me. It's not. Right, like it changes from time to time, but right now it's as simple as, right, I wake up, right, I've established that relationship, I cleared away the wreckage of the past, I have access to that sunlight of that spirit, that channel, right, it's open. I continue to try to keep that channel clear, like if I do something, right, or something happens, I try to make it right, the best I can, as quick as I can, and, right, today it's as simple as, you know, God, you know, I pray your power keeps me sober. I pray that you direct my thinking, right? Divorcing it from selfishness, dishonesty, fear, anger, resentment, worry. And then I pray that you give me the strength to go out, be of service to you and my fellows, right? And again, that is establishing that relationship and continuing to grow it, right? It becomes not about Justin, right? I mean, if my life is about me, it's way too small, right? Like it's about, like the people that I come in contact with on a daily basis, right? Are they better off because they've met me, right? Or they've been in contact with me, and that's how I try to live. That's the principles, right? You know, honesty, love, kindness, right? Love and tolerance is our code. It talks about that in the book, right? And that's so. I guess, right? All this stuff I marked really at the end of the day, like the first 9 steps, right? Working the first 9 steps honestly, humbly, willingly, to the best of my ability was what established my relationship with God. And then today, I live in 10, 11, and 12, right? And I try to improve and grow that relationship the best I can. And, right, I guess, I mean, Epie talked about it, right? This 3 legacy stuff, man. That's what it's about, right? For me, right, there's a line in the big book, and then I'll wrap up here, that says, nothing will so much assure immunity from a drink as intensive work with other alcoholics, right? And when I moved here 5 months ago, like, right, that's what happened to me. I came in, I told Steve I'm joining this home group, right? And then like a day later, dude, I had a packet for detox. I'm signed up for this, do this, come on with us here. And like, that's what it's about, man. Like, that's how I stay sober, right? I get an opportunity to give back, right? And if I stop doing that, and like today for me, I remember like one day at a time. Like for me today, like I have to look, like this is one day at a time for the rest of my life, right? Like I come here 2 days a week to take my medicine, right? And I do other stuff outside of here through detox and with other home group members. And like, it's gotta be every day, right? It's gotta be every day for the rest of my life. And that's okay with me today. And so that's kind of my experience with establishing a relationship with God. I hope that helped. And Epie and Jenny, great job. Thank you.